Certainly UEFA have come out very hostile to this. There appears to have been no consultation with the individual federations, UEFA, the North American, African, Asian federations. This looks as if it's been organised by Infantino himself. There's been no consultation with the players. There's been no consultation with the clubs.
Now, The Times reports exclusively today on Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president's plans to sell stakes in the World Cup to private investors under a scheme that he's discussed with figures close to President Trump. The scheme could potentially earn Infantino tens of millions of pounds. He's pictured beaming on the front page of The Times tonight. FIFA has since confirmed the story. Martin Ziegler, The Times chief sports reporter, spoke to John Pienaar earlier and explained the Gianni Infantino's motives.
We know that actually his driving force is making money and securing power for FIFA. And he wants a bigger share of football for whatever reasons. He wants his new club tournament to be dominant. He wants the World Cup to bring in more and more money and cement his position. And and now he's going to sell off a stake in the World Cup, or he wants to anyway, to private investors led by Joshua Kushner, who is the brother of Donald Trump's son-in-law.
Prime Minister Andy Burnham has posted on X this evening condemning the move. He said, football does not belong to investors, it belongs to the people who fill the stands and who stand on the touchline week in, week out, rain or shine. Let's talk to Kieran Maguire. He's a football finance expert. Good evening to you, Kieran.
Good evening.
Just explain your understanding of Gianni Infantino's plan.
Well, it looks as if he's going to be potentially selling off tranches of up to 20% in FIFA, setting up a separate vehicle, and that vehicle will be responsible for sort of the commercial and broadcasting arm of FIFA, which has proven to be very lucrative in the most recent World Cup. And it looks as if those investors will put money in initially, around about $10 billion. I think that's what FIFA are looking for. And that would then be distributed to the individual football associations. So they'd receive around about $47 to $50 million each.
So it looks as though Gianni Infantino could do very nicely out of this. And so could some members of the Trump family who seem to be involved in these plans.
Yes, there does appear to be a very mutually appreciative relationship between the Trump administration and Gianni Infantino. We saw that last December with the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize that was granted to Donald Trump, who seemed very flattered by this. And then, of course, there was the interference during the course of the World Cup that we've just seen when an American player's red card was rescinded after communication between Trump and FIFA itself. So it's a strange relationship, but they do seem to genuinely like each other.
Andy Burnham, the Prime Minister, who of course is a big football fan himself, has condemned this move. He says football does not belong to investors. It belongs to those people who fill the stands and stand on the touchline week in, week out, rain or shine. Of course, FIFA runs maybe some of the more high-profile contests. UEFA, though, has also condemned the news. Tell us a bit more about the reactions that there have been.
Well, certainly UEFA have come out very hostile to this. There appears to have been no consultation with the individual federations, UEFA, the North American, African, Asian federations. This looks as if it's been organised by Infantino himself. There's been no consultation with the players. There's been no consultation with the clubs, because ultimately the players are employees of the clubs who effectively outsource them during the FIFA World Cup. I would imagine the clubs would be hostile because this is an impact upon pre and post-season tours and also preparation for the forthcoming season. So I think it's blindsided everybody, and there's an awful lot of stakeholders who would be opposed to it.
I mean, Gianni Infantino obviously wields huge power. I'm amazed to see that apparently he's going to be able to keep his job for, I think it's till about 2031. Is he going to be able to go ahead with this, even if some of those big federations like UEFA are objecting?
Well, ultimately, FIFA is a democracy in the sense that it's one football association, one vote. So if you're Liechtenstein, if you're Turks and Caicos Islands, if you're Bahamas, if you're one of those clubs which is in the bottom 10 of FIFA's playing rankings, the thought of getting $50 million to invest as you see fit. FIFA are not the most draconian when it comes to ensuring that money's spent wisely. You can understand why perhaps they would back this. Infantino already has the backing of the African Federation, CONCACAF, which is the Caribbean and South American federations, and the Asian Federation. So it looks like he's already got at least 110 votes for his coronation. Well, yeah, I think a coronation is more appropriate than presidency, which is likely to be coming up soon.
Well, thanks so much for that. One of our listeners has got in touch, a big, long message here. But he is saying that the proposal is a politically constructed around the promise that each of FIFA's associations could get up to $20 million immediately, followed by a much larger development allocations through till 2038. So he's saying, our listener, it's not proof of bribery, but is an extraordinarily unhealthy governance design. This from Gianni Infantino, who this is from Kieran. No, it's for you as well, Kieran. Explaining our listeners' thought. That's from Axel on this very contentious plan. Kieran, thanks so much for joining us tonight and explaining all of that.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Kieran Maguire is a football finance expert.
Times Radio sports reporter Hugo Chambre is here. Hugo, good morning.
Morning, Tom.
When I first read this, I thought it was just a sort of sad story about, the tournament being sold off, private money. It'll be devalued because it's happening more often. But actually, the most shocking thing is that Infantino directly benefits financially from this model.
Yeah, he may well do. And it is a truly extraordinary story. If you were to cook up a fictitious cocktail of all the things about FIFA and Gianni Infantino that would wind up football fans. Donald Trump has a connection to it. The Times basically says that football is for sale, and I think whether or not you think that's already the case with the commercialization of the recent World Cup and everything that has happened with the World Cup, where it's been hosted in previous years, this does feel like a crossing of the Rubicon. So, as you said, FIFA's president Gianni Infantino is planning to sell stakes in the World Cup to private investors under a scheme that could potentially earn him tens of millions of pounds and potentially more into the future. Now, there's a huge number of implications to this, but effectively FIFA is a not-for-profit organisation currently, so as the governing body of football, all the money it makes gets invested back into the game. If FIFA were to set up this separate company, they would not need to do that, and so they could turn the World Cup into a for-profit entity. And the reason that might be attractive for member nations, the 211 member associations that FIFA runs, the countries that try and be in the World Cup each, is that they would each get a stake of around $20 million. And for many of those countries, that's far more money than they currently have. So in a simple vote, you can see why this would be attractive to African nations, Asian nations. Now, there has been quite a significant pushback to the initial idea, but you can see how this might happen. And in terms of how Gianni Infantino himself might benefit, he is looking to position himself as a potential commissioner for this tournament once his role as the president of FIFA expires in 2031, should he win the next election unelected, which it looks like will happen. So he will basically continue, the man who lots of people despise as the head of FIFA would continue to run FIFA in a sense and would continue to benefit. Currently, he makes about $6 million a year. The commissioner of the NFL makes $64 million a year. So yeah, you can see why a man like Gianni Infantino wants to do something like this, but you can also see why for some people this has been a sickening story.
And just briefly, Hugo, pretty angry reaction from UEFA yesterday. We've had more from Andy Burnham overnight.
Yeah, Andy Burnham simply agreed with UEFA and agreed with lots of football fans, saying that football shouldn't be for sale, and he completely disagrees with this. European nations will discuss boycotting the World Cup if Gianni Infantino sells part of FIFA to private investors and tries to make the World Cup a more regular occurrence than every 4 years. But I mean, yeah, we will have to see, because there will be, as I mentioned, there will be lots of member nations, lots of countries who will want to do this because of their $20 million share.
Well, and they see it as, a game which has been dominated by Europe, and actually there's an argument for a democratisation of the game if indeed they vote for it. Hugo, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Tom.
Hugo Chambre, Times Radio's sports reporter.